Hello, and welcome to the Midnight Diaries. You weren't expecting that, huh? You're probably wondering what the heck happened to the Live Label Free podcast. Well, no worries, my friend. This is still the Live Label Free podcast, but I just had to say Midnight Diaries because today's episode is another piece of content that my brain decided to come up with at 1 a.m. or probably even later when I was seriously trying to fall asleep, but those little people up there in my head would not stop running all over my mental pages. So lo and behold, I grabbed my phone and I just started typing, and well, what I came up with, I thought it was an amazing metaphor for how to get out of quasi recovery, which I'm of course just all about right now because I have a super exciting announcement to share regarding my two books, How to Get Out of Quasi Recovery and the accompanying Discovery workbook that came out earlier this year. It's a super unique and special offer where my work as a coach literally coalesces. Don't you just love that word? Coalesces. That's why I love that term, neurodivergent energy coalescence. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, this is a special offer where my work as a coach literally coalesces with my identity as an author, and I am so excited about it. And I will talk about it towards the end of this episode because it is totally an extension of everything I'm about to say. But as a little teaser, if you feel lost and confused and overwhelmed and just fucking exhausted by this constant mental battle in your brain, because trust me, I know how you feel, my friend, just stick around till the end, friend. So you can hear all about this limited time opportunity. So all that being said, it is now time to get into the episode, into what I wrote at in the middle of the night, in the midnight. And I want to start this off by asking you a question. It's going to seem silly at first, but trust me, this metaphor is absolutely magic. And again, I promise you that all of the dots will start to connect at the end of the episode. So the question is, do you remember when you learned how to type? Like typing on a keyboard. And if you can't type due to a disability or another reason, do you remember when you learned how to write or dictate or learn to do whatever you do that now allowed you to click play and listen to this episode today? Okay, why is everything rhyming? Play today, friend, end. Anyways, if you're like me, I'm guessing not. I'm guessing there wasn't one day where you just went from not being able to type or write or speak to suddenly mastering the skill, right? Well, the reason I start with this question is because I want to share a bit of my own frustrating history with learning how to type. And everything that I'm about to say, which I wrote in the midnight, I'm just going to say in the midnight, I know that's not grammatically correct, but we don't care. I did send out an email newsletter a while ago sharing this story. So if you are already part of the Live Label Free fam email list, which if you're not, you can sign up at livelabelfree.com/join, and as ever, I will leave that link in the show notes as well. But if you have been on my email list for a while, what I'm about to say, it may ring a bell, and that's because you are right on. I did once send this out as an email, but what I'm going to say at the end is new, because obviously everything has to be timely, and I didn't have this idea for the special offer I'm going to tell you at the end. I didn't have this idea a few months ago. Okay, well, I had the idea, but it wasn't worked out yet. We gotta get our facts straight. Anyways, I'm going off on such a tangent right now, but just wanted to say that disclaimer that if what I'm about to say rings a bell, that's why. So, back to the story. When I was 9 years old, we had a special teacher come to our classroom twice a week for typing lessons. That's literally what they were called. And I was so excited for these lessons because when I used to watch my mom clack away on her laptop, I wanted to be just like her. I wanted to be able to type, and I wanted to be able to type just as fast. So when we were given the assignment to type certain sentences, and these were like basic sentences, like My name is Livia, and I like to play soccer. And for all my UK listeners, football is soccer in the United States, and football in the US though is like rugby. It's so confusing. Again, I don't know why my brain is doing the whole tangent thing. But we were, instructed to type out these basic sentences, and it literally, obviously, took me forever to type them out because you have to look for all the keys, right? Because you don't know where the keys are. And I felt so defeated. And while I did mask my feelings in the classroom setting, because I didn't want anyone to know how freaking upset I was, my insides were boiling with every negative emotion you can think of: rage, impatience, jealousy, fear, hopelessness, desperation. Seriously, everything you can think of was bottled up, bursting at the seams of this human body costume. And the thing is, now, I didn't understand why I was so mad, why I was so frustrated, why I couldn't be okay with learning how to type, because obviously, like, the logical part of my brain knew that, of course, I'm not gonna be like a master typer if I've never done it before. But the thing is that I didn't want to learn how to type. I just wanted to know how to type. And I wanted to know now. So you're probably wondering what this little anecdote has to do with quasi recovery, and I'm sure that you can already guess. But the reason that you are currently still stuck, quote unquote, in quasi recovery is because you want to know how to recover before taking action. Instead of typing slowly, pressing the wrong keys, and getting those squiggly red lines under your words to nudge you with typos, you want perfect prose straight off the bat. No uncertainty, but a 100% guarantee. You want a guarantee that mental hunger will really go away. A guarantee that you can handle the responsibilities of being healthy, which I do have a whole separate podcast episode on. Why did I say podcast? So weird. And it's also a chapter in my book, How to Get Out of Quasi Recovery. It's literally titled, What If I Can't Handle Being Healthy? And you also want a guarantee that all of this recovery stuff will even be worth it. You want to skip the growing pains and shortcut the fears, from the fear of emptiness to the fear of what's going to replace your eating disorder, to the fear of being rejected for being your authentic self. And boy, do I know how convincing that voice up there is. And when you have so many little people running up there are a lot of little voices telling you that if you just figure out how to recover first, if you just, quote unquote, know exactly when you can declare yourself free, well, then easy peasy, right? Piece of cake. Well, unfortunately, and excuse the huge jump in food puns, that's not quite how the cookie crumbles, is it? Instead of moving you forward, this idea that you must preemptively know what recovered looks like for you because it looks different for everyone, this is the trap. It's what I always say, right? The map is the trap. For how can you know what recovered looks like for you if you never even give yourself the chance to discover your unique experience of this existence? So you wait, and wait, and wait. You spend your days consuming ever more ED recovery content, watching other people's what I eat in a day videos, and looking for the quote unquote perfect roadmap out of eating disorder land. But because the eating disorder is an island, an isolated plane with no connections to your authentic self, you end up feeling more lost. So if there's no perfect roadmap, well, then how do you break free from not only the ED, but from recovery itself? Because if you're listening to this and if you are stuck in quasi recovery, you know that quasi recovery is probably worse than having an eating disorder. Because when you have an eating disorder, it's almost this like unconscious immersion in that eating disorder story, right? But the reason we get stuck in quasi-recovery is because we're aware that we have an eating disorder, and we're aware that we are choosing this miserable existence, and the only reason that we are not free is because of fear. That's literally the only reason. So the question is then, okay, but how do you discover your authentic being, one that isn't living in fear? How do you tap in and honor the part of you that is painfully aware of your potential? You start, and here we come back to the metaphor, you start by typing. You start by pressing one key at a time, forming simple words and sentences, slowly at first. But as you type more and more, you realize you don't have to pay as much attention to where you're placing your fingers, because muscle memory starts to occur, and your fingers just seem to remember where certain keys are. And over time, typing, just like speaking or walking or writing, or even the eating disorder itself, over time it becomes second nature. And then one day, you look up from the manuscript you've just written and you go, holy shit, I actually did it. I'm recovered from my eating disorder. And on that note, it is now time to tell you the super exciting author coach coalescence that I said I would tell you about at the top of this episode, and it is called, drumroll please, 51 Days to Freedom. And honestly, this name just makes me so happy because it just makes sense. And it's because my book, How to Get Out of Quasi-Recovery, has 51 chapters, and basically what this new program entails is that we are going to do the book together. And I'm actually getting so emotional right now. Like, I actually have like happy tears in my eyes. I feel like I am bursting at the seams with excitement. So yeah, let me just continue telling you about this amazing program. So if you've already read How to Get Out of Quasi-Recovery, you know that the book really goes deep into what keeps people stuck, not only in quasi-recovery, but in life. We're talking about existentialism, perfectionism, never feeling good enough, feeling behind in life. The list goes on. And then the accompanying discovery workbook, that maybe you've also completed that or even started already, it helps you turn the insights from the main book into meaningful action steps, obviously. And I am, of course, very proud of these books, and I truly believe they will change your life, just like all my other books. That's why I write, because I believe that my words will change your life. But these books, by themselves, are obviously not the same as authentic and live connection with me and others who get it. And this group connection, this incredible power of having so many stories of lived experience come together, the power of this was never as clear to me as it was when I ran the Autistically AD-Free Academy. I mean, anyone who's listened to this who has done the Autistically AD-Free Academy just knows that there's no way of describing what it's like to be in a room, a virtual room then, of so many literally kindred spirits where you can go to divine dimension and just speak in the language of the soul, right? So anyways, the Autistically AD-Free Academy is obviously a different program because I have so many little people running up there in my head that I have so many different ideas for so many different programs, and the Autistically AD-Free Academy was not specifically focused on quasi-recovery, of course, and that is why I decided to create 51 Days to Freedom. So over the course of this program, we will have 7 live group coaching calls. And why 7? Because 51 days is technically 7 weeks and 2 days. And because I'm like, what about those 2 days? There's going to be a surprise at the end of the program. So you'll also get to be part of a private WhatsApp group. So you will literally have 24/7 support. And if you don't have them already, I will send you both How to Get Out of Quasi-Recovery and the Discovery Workbook in your preferred format if you sign up for the program, and I can even send you signed copies if you like. I mean, I am in the Netherlands now, and I just ordered like a shit ton of my books, so I have a whole closet full of books because I want to do more signed books and all that. So, obviously, you would have to pay for printing and shipping if you want physical copies, especially if you want them signed by me. I mean, I'm just gonna be fully transparent here. So, if you do want the books for free, though, when you sign up for the program, you can get either the ebook or the audiobook. That's no problem at all. So, speaking of transparency, you're probably wondering, what does 51 Days to Freedom cost? Well, I wanted to make it super accessible and affordable because everything has gotten so expensive lately. So the investment is just £151, so Great British pounds, for the entire program. And yep, that's right. 7 weeks of coaching sessions with me, plus the surprise, plus 24/7 support through the WhatsApp group, and free copies of two of my books for just £151, £151. And yes, the 151 is absolutely intentional. And I do name my prices in pounds now because most of my clients and audience is in the UK. So for reference, 151 Great British pounds is about 170 euros or 200 US dollars. So, for what you get, especially compared to my premiumly priced one on one coaching, this is not only a deal, this is a freaking steal. And because I want the environment to be intimate and safe, there are a limited number of spots available in this program. So if you are tired of doing the motions of recovery and you're ready to break free from the ED handcuffs once and for all, don't wait and secure your spot in 51 Days to Freedom today at livelabelfree.com/freedom. So again, that's livelabelfree.com/freedom, and I will also leave the link in the show notes below this episode. I am beyond excited to embark on a journey with you to discovering who you are without the mask of both the eating disorder identity and the mask of the recovery identity. Because as I said earlier, the mask of the recovery identity is arguably worse. I hope to see you inside 51 Days to Freedom, and otherwise, I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye bye for now.